Today's podcast with Veri TV is brought to you today introducing a lady that I've met a few times over in Zambia, Grace Soko.
Mhm.
She is working with a company called Altus Capital Limited and as a business development executive. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm glad to have you. But I'd say I've met Grace a few times, and the reason I wanted Grace on the call or on a podcast was, in my mind, I wanted to, get to know her better for one thing. But Grace has always been fantastic in supporting me and helping me out when I wanted to access various things and people in the Zambia region. So she's always done me proud. So at least I could do is extend the offer and another conversation with her on here.
Ah, really buttered me up. I'm flattered.
What hobbies or passions do you have outside of work that you would like to reveal to the general public? And yes, is it? Let's go with that.
I'm actually a true crime fanatic. So, obviously Netflix,
Oh,
yeah, Netflix is like my best friend at this point. Quite a lot of true crime
okay,
documentaries going on there, and I've got a whole Spotify podcast subscription going on. So
okay.
I do like the odd true crime documentary. I don't know if that counts as a hobby or it's
So,
a sign of being a
so would you
psychopath.
like to be a detective?
I don't know. I feel like I would actually
You're
be
a
a very
psychopath.
good. I feel like I'd be a very good detective.
Sorry.
Either that, or I would write my own fan fiction. I'm considering it when I have the time, because I'm actually a writer, believe it or
Okay.
not.
Oh, nice. That's great. I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's another interesting thing that people don't know about you. So you're a budding psychopath. You're a budding detective, and a budding writer all at the same time.
It's amazing. It's quite a good mix, I think.
It's quite revealing as well, Grace. To be fair, do you have a particular place that you like to go, think, reflect, and reset yourself and unwind?
So I like to be around bodies of water. So we do have, I know Siavonga is a good place. We call it the Zambian version of the French Riviera. It's quite pretty. It's got obviously the Kariba Dam, which is unfortunately running low right now, but we still have some beautiful places where you can just go and disconnect. In August, I was in Kafue National Park. So again, anything to do with water, I'm there, and we got some, safari drives in, and that was great. So I like to just disconnect, leave Lusaka, leave all the traffic, and just go anywhere where there's a body of water and just look at the sun setting over water. I think that's so calming. If I had my own way, I'd probably make my own dam at my farm or something. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a particular place, but anywhere that has a large body of water, I'm good out in the nature, yeah. Ah, okay. So that's actually a very good question. Both of my parents are teachers. Well, they're retired now, but my dad was more in science. He is a physics teacher, well, retired physics teacher now. My mom was a more creative one, so she's into music and actually an English teacher. So my mom is one of those who always encouraged me to read. And because of that, I think a lot of what we do in investment advisory is not so much about numbers. Of course, we need to know how the economy is doing, but you need to be a little bit of a, encyclopedia to your clients. And because of this love that I have for reading, I've actually found it very easy to you know, talk to my clients in a way that isn't so academic because I kind of know a little bit about everything. So what would happen, I think my earliest memory is being in primary school and they would set a book to say for this week the class is reading this book and I would finish it in 2 days. And then I'm kind of waiting for the rest of the class to catch up. So what my mom would do is she would buy me a book almost every Friday and I had to pick what theme for the month. So are we going horror? Are we going Famous Five? Are we going Nancy Drew? Which way are we going? And because of that, even now in my career, I'm constantly looking for something to read because my mind is just programmed to know that we always have to be reading about something. So I really credit my parents for that. And then, of course, my father is one of those people who loves to know things. So I'd sit with my dad and watch documentaries about the most random things. Either we're talking about the Cold War, or watching something about how gold is going to take over the whole world and, you know, conventional currency as we know it is going to be phased out. And because of that, I think even when I got into this career, again with an investment advisor, you need to know a little bit about everything because it does feed into what you're going to tell your clients. So my dad is, I always say, he is my living, breathing Britannica. Anything I need to know, I just call my dad. And I think because of that, I've kind of developed that skill as well. So I have a few friends who will say, anything you need to know, just call Grace. She probably has an idea or she knows where to look for it. And I've noticed my clients are also kind of going in that direction. Whenever they need to know something, they'll just be like, yeah, I have an idea. And I think you know what I'm talking about. So do your research and come back to me. So again, because of that love for research, growing up, it doesn't even feel like research. For me, it's like, ooh, what am I learning today? So yeah, I think my parents have really, I think having two teachers in the household, it really makes you have this love for learning that it doesn't really feel like learning.
What's the most adventurous thing you've ever done in your life?
Ooh, okay. Now I have to bear in mind that my parents will probably watch this. So the most adventurous thing. So yeah, this is
So now you're going to actually dub it down, is that right?
yeah, I have to yeah.
You're going to do
So
this. You're going to get down to this. The second most adventurous thing is that
no,
what it
no,
is?
it was actually okay. Yeah, I just don't think they know the story. So the most adventurous thing that I did, and this was maybe two years ago. Um, I didn't grow up in Zambia. I grew up in Botswana. I only came back in 2015. So it's literally been about 9 years of trying to catch up with basically a lifetime of culture. So one of my friends at work was like, listen, there's this cultural event. It's happening in Chipata. We need to go, right? This cultural event, I think it started on Thursday. The plan was formulated in one afternoon on Tuesday. And this town is like 600 kilometers away. I am one of those people who plans everything to the detail. I don't leave things to chance. And I was literally like, okay, let's go. So we put fuel in my car. Mind you, we didn't have enough money to actually reach there. It was literally moved by faith, not by sight. So the three of us each, kind of put money together. We started off the journey. On the way to the town, that's when we were sorting out accommodation of where we're going to stay. Mind you, this cultural event basically attracts everybody around the country. So all the lodges were booked. My friend on the way finally says, listen, I know somebody who's going to let us stay in the house, in his house because he's out. So, God makes a way. Start your journey. He finds you along the way. We get there. I have absolutely no idea what happens in this town. It's my first time there. And yeah, for me, that was quite adventurous. Usually, when I start a journey, I know where I'm going. I know what restaurants are there. I know what food I'm going to eat. And this was literally a case of we'll make a way as we go. And it was actually quite good. I don't think I would do it again, but um, it was great, including having a tire burst, well, a slow puncture in that same city. Didn't really know anybody, and we had to get the tire sorted out. So these are three girls, completely lost, not knowing what's going on, and yeah, it was quite adventurous. It's a good memory.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice um, now, what would that be?
Learn to put yourself first. And I'll clarify on that one. Um, I, from a young age, I always used to be a people pleaser. Um, don't talk too loud. Don't um, be too much of a bother. Just be a wallflower, right? And then you reach a point where you need to live in the truth of who you are. If you're not meant to be put in a box, don't force yourself into that box, you know? Um, Also, when you overextend yourself, you find yourself in a position where you have, there's this quote that sticks out for me, and as I get older, it seems to resonate more, where it says, you can have big plans with someone, and they may not have plans with you. And you find yourself overextending, and then you can't give out love that you're not showing yourself. So that's why I always remind myself, start from within. Don't be, of course, don't be, a jerk about it, but learn to put yourself first. Love yourself first, and then it's easier for you to love others. Show yourself some grace, and you'll be able to extend it to other people. So that's something that I'm actively working on, and I wish I had understood this concept earlier. Because even when it comes to, and again, it ties into why we're here, you will find a lot of the situations in Zambia where someone is taking care of so many people in his family and he hasn't thought about his own retirement. And then when something does happen, you haven't built up an emergency fund, you haven't built up a retirement fund because you're so busy taking care of everybody else. So, yeah, that's something that I feel if I had got that concept earlier in life, I wouldn't say I'd be further along because obviously everything happens for a reason, but I would definitely tell the younger version of myself to say it's okay to put yourself first sometimes. It's okay to love yourself a little bit more sometimes. I think that's the best advice. Yeah.
What inspired you to pursue a career in the field you're
hmm
currently in?
So I felt it was a natural progression. Yeah. My career started in banking. Um, Banking more in the sense of retail side, so opening personal bank accounts for people. Um, a lot of people in Zambia, it's either you're opening a salary account or you're opening a savings account, yeah. And that kind of got me into the finance world. That was my foot in the door. And then as my career progressed, it moved more into relationship management. So now it was a matter of managing corporate accounts as well as individual accounts. And in that management, you have the aspect of, yes, we're going to show you how to manage the money that you're making, but we'll also show you how to make a little bit more um, in terms of your investments. And then it kind of gradually progressed to where I am now, a financial advisor, and I'm able to really hone in on how to help people better manage their finances. A lot of what I do right now is actually financial planning. So I think it's a natural progression moving from, okay, I'm going to open your savings account to now, how do we make the money that's going into the savings account? So it was quite a natural progression. I've had a lot of people along the journey that have helped me in terms of navigating things. Um, I think I've been blessed in the sense that I've had the right people come to me at the right time. in my career where I'm actually able to fully receive the knowledge that they're sharing with me. So I would say, yeah, it's been a natural 9 years. Wow, that's a long time. 9 years of progression in the financial services industry. Yeah.
So can you share an experience that where you took a leap of faith and it paid off?
Ooh, wow. Okay. In the professional space, yeah. Okay. Um, I think leaving the bank was a leap of faith. Um, I joined the bank as a new graduate, fresh out of university. Uh, the bank really shaped my career. I was with the bank for 5 years, and it's one of the biggest banks still in the country. Um, the time I was leaving, I think a lot of people, even my own parents, were like, "Okay, are you sure you want to leave the structure of a bank? Are you sure?" And I said, "It's time." Yeah. And I think it was one of those where I had to break away from the monotony of banking and move into another space of financial services. And I think because of that breakaway from the bank, it's allowed me to be a lot more fluid in terms of where I can fit in the financial services industry because bankers tend to rotate around the banks. That's what I've noticed. So you're literally moving from one bank to another. And banking is one of those traditional careers. There's a certain way that a banker must behave and carry themselves. And when you move out of that banking industry, um, it is a leap of faith. I think it's quite a big leap of faith. And I'm glad I did it.
We met when you were
Right.
working elsewhere, and now you're working with a new company. And is that another point in time in your life? Actually, it's time to move on. So, yeah, tell everybody about what you're doing and what it involves, and yeah, where you
Okay.
currently are.
So I'm still in the investment advisory space, but Altus Capital is more, I would say, expansive in terms of what I actually do. So I am a business development executive, as you mentioned earlier. A lot of what I do right now is sourcing new business and managing the relationships that we already have. At Altus Capital, it's not just about investment advisory, there's also pension fund management, which is a new aspect for me. um, it's quite interesting because now we're dealing with a lot more corporate clients. So you get to see the nuances in terms of how um, employers actually look out for their employees. Yeah. I think a lot of the time we look at it from, oh, I don't get paid enough. Help me manage what I'm getting. And now we're looking at it from the other side of the coin to say, okay, as an employer, this is what we're actually doing on the flip side to help you, especially when you look at pensions. Pensions are like a longer term thing. And I don't think as employees, and I've fallen in this trap as well, you don't really appreciate that little deck off your pay towards your pension because you're just looking at it as another line on your payslip. But I'm seeing it from the other side to say that these companies are actually looking out for you because when your contract comes to an end, and inevitably it will, um, you literally have been saving as you're working and you get your little, we call it severance package or whatever it is. You get your pension package. And it's a very interesting side of investment advisory. Also, the firm that I'm with right now, I think I'm a lot closer to the action, let me put it that way, because I understand what exactly is it that a pension fund or a fund manager looks at before they invest money. What are some of the things that you need to consider? Because essentially, you're holding people's retirement in your hands. So even as you're making decisions, even as you're talking to employers, it's a whole other level of the conversation. And yeah, again, another natural progression in my career, which I'm grateful for.
What's the most rewarding part of your job um, that you experience, whether that be in your previous role or your current role?
I think it's something that I've been chasing throughout my career. There's a light bulb moment. There's literally a light bulb moment where after you've explained something to a client and there's a little light bulb that you see, like a little light that goes on in their eyes, and they're like, "Where have you been? You have finally given me a solution. Like, where have you been?" um, Most recently, I sat down with a client who'd been working for a good 10 years, yeah. And you do your net worth analysis, you look at how you can help them grow their net worth, and you break it down into baby steps. And he literally looked at me and were like, "Where were you 10 years ago?" And I jokingly said to him, "I was still finishing university, but I'm here now." And it's so heartwarming when you realize that you've actually helped somebody see that something they thought was unattainable is very much attainable, because you break it down to a level where you're able to say, "I know you're thinking I need X amount in 15 years to retire comfortably, but if we start now, you're actually only putting X amount every single month." And you break it down to, I would say, sizable, bite sized goals. And it's so great when you do that, because I think a lot of us, we get so caught up in the end game. We forget that there's short term planning, there's medium term planning, and there's long term planning. And what you realize is when you tick off your little short term goals, you're halfway there already. And it's little things like step one, open a unit trust account. Tick it off. Guess what? You've taken the first step. Step two, set up a standing order of X amount. You tick it off. And it's so heartwarming when you tick off these little things and you can literally see somebody feeling like, "I'm actually doing something." So it's a great feeling. I think I love that about my job. It's the most fulfilling thing. Just that little light bulb moment, and you can actually see it in someone's eyes where they're like, "Huh, yeah." It's a great moment.
If you could describe Zambia, your life there. I know you've actually, well, from what you've told us, you spend a lot of time in Botswana, but the last 9 years in Zambia. But tell everybody about Zambia itself, and you can include obviously throughout your life and how it may have changed, and then from
Hmm.
there we'll move into the obviously the finance sector. But for the time
Right.
being, tell everybody about Zambia.
Zambia is the most beautiful country in the world. Of course, I'm biased, but um, what I love about Zambians is just our tenacity. I love that no matter how difficult situations may be in terms of our economy or whatever the case may be, we're still warm hearted people, and we've got an excellent sense of humor as well. Um, I think what really made me want to come home is just that sense of patriotism that I think every Zambian holds within them. Um, Also, if you look at, of course, we can boast about Victoria Falls. I think that's like our pilgrimage. Every single Zambian goes there and is like, "You know what? Yeah, this is amazing." Um, if I had to sum up Zambia in one word, I would say that Zambia is, I would say, optimistic. Yeah. We always have this level of optimism within us to say, yeah, you know, things may not be where we want it to be right now, but we're on the right track. We're a very optimistic bunch of people. And yeah, I think even, well, I grew up in Botswana, but I'd always come home. My parents made it a point every 3 months. We would come back home to Zambia because they said you need to remember where you're from. And I made the decision to come home, and it was very easy because home is home at the end of the day. And I think even just from your visits here to Zambia, I think you can attest to just how welcoming we are as a people. And we have a very interesting menu as well. I hope you got to sample some of the things while you were here.
I didn't get to sample as much as I would like to, but yeah, I'm more than willing to come back and sample more.
Please
As
do.
far as the people, yeah, I agree. The people were lovely from the moment we arrived to the moment we left, and so yeah, very welcoming all the way through. So yeah, I do look forward to the next trip and coming
Mm,
back. And what I found was um, I was surprised. I don't know why I was surprised, but yeah, the infrastructure seemed to be so well developed in Lusaka,
mm,
particularly, and seemed to be very well organized throughout. So yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. I don't know what I was expecting, but when I arrived with a smile on my face, and I left with a smile on my face. So, and I don't think I changed that smile all the way through the period of time I was there. So, I'm very happy.
wonderful. Yeah, and like I always say, we're on the right track. Yeah.
Let's talk about, or if you can, obviously give some insight as to the Zambian economy, um, into um, let's say the opportunities that Zambia has to offer somebody in the financial services, and
Mm.
let's say some of the eccentricities that some people may be prepared for if they're entering into that sector within Zambia.
Okay. So the beautiful thing about Zambia right now is I would say that we're on a growth spurt. I know we're fighting inflation at the moment, but that aside, there's still quite a lot of opportunities. We've got a growing middle class as well. So what you'll find is because of that growing middle class, and hopefully once we get inflation under control, there is a lot more space. I think there's a lot more understanding of long-term planning in terms of finances. There is a need amongst the growing middle class for more investment as opposed to savings products. They are thinking more long term. They are thinking, I need to plan for retirement. Um, they are thinking about, I need to start thinking more in terms of 10, 15-year plans. Um, there was a point where a lot of the financial services were more skewed towards present needs, more of consumption. And I think we are getting to a point where there is a lot more, I'd say, of a need or a hunger for products that allow people to plan longer term. Um, Also, just if you look at our government right now, they're really trying to get as much, FDI, foreign direct investment in. If you look at the budget that they just rolled out, a lot of it is skewed more towards making sure that the economy not only diversifies, because for the longest time, we've been relying on copper exports. And there is a lot more emphasis on your SME sector to grow that because I think there is an understanding that we have a younger population, they have a lot of great ideas, and they need a lot of support to get those ideas up and off the ground. In the agricultural sector as well, there's quite a lot happening there. I think people are trying to diversify. For the most part, we've been skewed more towards your traditional crops like your corn, or your maize. Now they're exploring products like tobacco, soya. Um, it's quite interesting to see all the things that Zambians are getting into. I had this conversation with my dad, and he was saying, yeah, all of you that were outside are coming back home now, and you're coming back with all these ideas and all the energy to implement them. And I said, that's actually a very good point. Because a lot of the people that I studied with, because I did my university in South Africa, they're coming back and they have all these ideas. There's certain people who went to school in the UK, they went to school in Australia, and they're coming back because everybody, like I mentioned, there's a growing sense of patriotism where everybody says, okay, let's go back and see what we can do. So there are a lot of ideas coming up. We've got a lot of young people who are doing great things in the SME space. I'm happy to see that this administration is more supportive in terms of actually providing funding for a lot of these ideas. And yeah, it's quite an exciting time in Zambia. Of course, inflation is the big pain at the moment, getting the exchange rate under control. But like I said, that sense of optimism really carries through to say we're on the right track. Yeah.
What I'm going to do now is move on to the last segment. The last segment being the future and what it holds
Hmm.
um, for you personally, for you, let's say, career-wise. Um, yeah, hopes and dreams, that type of thing. Things
Hmm.
you would like to see happening potentially in Zambia as well. So I suppose there's three or four questions in there that I'm going to hand it over to you and see what comes back.
Okay. Well, for me personally, I take a leaf out of my career and I break my goals into short term, medium term, and long term. So short term goals would be I want to be a certified financial analyst. So hopefully next year I can get that knocked out and get my CFA. Um, my partner is pushing me to do an MBA, so we'll see how that fits in. um, hopefully marriage as well in the next 5 years. We seem to be on the right track. Fingers crossed, none of us messes it up. And I do want to do a lot more development with the farm. My parents are retired and they're enjoying the slow life, but I've got very big dreams for the farm that we have. Hopefully, get that running at a stage where we can start supplying milk, because I'm thinking more of dairy farming, things like that. Uh, if I had to go medium term, I'm not keen on being an employee in the next 5 years. So hopefully by the time I turn, well, at least in my mid 40s, so that's about 10 years, 5 to 10 years, I should have my own firm. Um, I would like to continue helping people along in their investment journey. I think that's something I'm very passionate about. Also, I do want to find myself feeding into national policy, whether that's policy advisory on an economic side or just policy advisory, um, more to do with mental health issues as well. So I am quite a big mental health advocate. I am working on something with a friend of mine, so we should have some form of a nonprofit going. That's part of your, I'd say, short to medium term planning. And long term plans, if I can be retired by 50, like happily retired by 50, I would be really happy. I just want to travel the world and take my family along with me. I think I'm yeah, I'm trying to get a plan in place. I want my parents to see Israel. I think that's something that they've wanted to do for the longest time. So I want to take my parents, obviously, when things, settle down, God willing, in the region. But that is something that I do want my parents to experience. I know my mom did Paris without me, but I would love to do Paris again with my mother. I think that would be great. So that's part of my short to medium term. Okay. I do see a more involved youth component, not just in the economic sector, but also in politics. Um, I do see us being, I would say, I don't like using the word superpower because I feel it's outdated, but I feel we have so much potential in the Southern African region to be the leaders, not only in a political space, because we do have some very impressive political thinkers that are coming up, but also just in terms of economically. Um, we have so much potential, and I do feel we are on the right track. So I do see Zambia achieving great things. I see us growing in the mining sector. I see us growing in the agricultural sector. Um, we've got amazing minds in the financial sector as well. And I'm so excited to see what's going to come out of there. We have a lot of innovative people in the fintech space, doing a lot of great things. And it's great to see women taking the helm. I will not shy away from the fact that I'm happy to see women leading in the fintech space, and I'm excited to see what's going to come out from there. Um, I just see Zambia being a regional hub in not just the economic space, but also in the political space. I'm happy with what we're doing right now. Of course, we could do better, but yeah, I think if there's anything that sums up what I've said in the whole um, conversation about Zambia is we are on the right track. Okay, great. So thanks so much for this opportunity. I think this was great. A lot of questions that I didn't really foresee, but it made me think quite a bit. Um, I think the main takeaway for me from this is in the financial services space, there's a lot of exciting things that are happening. We've got innovative people leading the investment advisory, I'll say financial advisory sector. I'm so privileged to be part of it. Um, of course, with Altus Capital, we are thinking outside of the box in terms of not having one investment plan that fits everybody. We do understand that people have individual goals, and because of that, our investment plans are bespoke. Um, Also, I think we have the advantage of being able to tailor make the products because we actually have them in house. So, a lot of our clients, we have a basic structure of how our unit trusts operate, but we are able to, I would say, bend and fit according to what our client needs. And I'm really excited to get into the pension fund management space. I think it's very, I would say, encouraging that employers are thinking towards how they're going to manage gratuity funds, how they're going to manage pension funds, because they are a lot more caring just in terms of staff welfare. I think it's very important to think about the end game, even as the career is progressing for a client. And I'm looking forward to working with a lot more companies on that and just planning better for their staff. And I'm also looking forward to serving a lot more people and just helping them achieve their goals. And I think as my knowledge grows in the investment advisory space, I'll be better positioned to analyze and come up with investment plans for my clients. And yeah, I think that's about it from my side. Great. Thank you for having me.